Is going on already? I'm Dr. Luigi, and today it's the big day. We're finally coming out with UNU version 6. This adds a whole bunch of new features to UNU. So I've been working on it for a really long time. I hope you guys are excited to play it as I am to finally get it out the door. Now, this doesn't add a whole lot of new vehicles. However, this does add a bunch of functionality to the vehicles that are already in UNU. Almost every single vehicle has had new features added, and we're going to jump all into that today. But first, I want to shout out Athena, who made all of this fancy decor that is going to be added to the mod. And so there's some new tables, stools, books, radios, cabinetry, even a toilet, a bunch of new things that are added to the mod to just sort of spruce up your house. So the big theme with UNU version 6 is customizability. It's all about customizing the stuff that you've got. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The office chair even swivels, which is pretty cool. So the first thing that kind of got added is a feature that really is a good way to introduce the concept of UNU version 6. It's all about making the stuff that was already there just a little more immersive, if you will. So this is the console stereo. This has been in the mod for a while. However, it now has the ability to actually play records. So we go ahead and get our Capital High Q L156. This is stock music from the 50s, so it should be royalty free. Go ahead and pop it on the turntable and give it a listen. So yeah, that has about, I think, 6 tracks on it, each about a minute long, and yeah, it plays through the record. As the tracks progress, the tone arm even moves closer and closer, so there's a little cool touch with that. So right now, this is kind of a tech demo, if you will, because I don't want to throw a bunch of copyrighted music into UNU proper. However, I do plan on, there we go. I do plan on adding more records in the future. So far I have this one here as the start to my YouTuber music pack. Hopefully more people down the line also add their own music discs in. But yeah, it's a cool little functionality. But of course this is immersive vehicles, and UNU is all about vehicles, so you gotta grab this secondary one. You can listen to music at the house, but you can also listen to it with the UNU Highway Hi-Fi. Now, what the heck is that? That is, I'll go ahead and get in on the other side here, a record player for your car. You see right there, the Highway Hi-Fi. So this could install in most UNU vehicles. Just pop that open, put on the record, and hit play. So you hit that red button right there. So yeah, that is another feature that is added to UNU. Of course, the ability to play your music on the go. So this is something I've wanted to add to UNU for a while, and I'm pretty sure this is the first pack in MTS that actually has like its own built-in music discs, which is pretty cool. Down the line, I will add in more formats. So I want to add in cassette decks as well as CDs down the line. So with the vinyls, if you start them and stop them, they completely restart from the beginning. The other formats will also act like their own proper formats with the limitations and whatnot. So pretty cool little feature to kind of get everything started. So we're going to continue on with the mild additions before we get into the really cool stuff. So this is the cargo container that everybody's familiar with. Now it actually has an inside. Ooh, really cool. Parts are now placeable in MTS, so now instead of having a separate cargo container for decoration and for parts, now it's all just one thing. So you could set it down or you could put it in a vehicle. Now, the old cargo containers were crates, so if you clicked on them, it opened an inventory. You could put, I think, like 128 stacks or something ridiculous in there. But now, they're actually just cargo containers that you can load up with crates and barrels and stuff. So we'll go ahead and grab some of that stuff here. So you can... Now, this is actually also an introduction to the UNU dynamic storage system. So if you're familiar with MTS, this is kind of how storing stuff usually goes. It's a grid of crates, and that's about it. Not super interesting. There we go. There we go. MTS is a little buggy with tight collision boxes. But yeah, that's how you normally load stuff up. And of course, hey, you could do that with UNU too. But the UNU dynamic storage system is a little more interesting, as in there are different sizes of crates. So you have single size crates, double size crates, and triple crates. And as you see, when I hold different crates, different slots show up on the floor to show where you can place them. So for example, an arms crate is 3 crates long, and so it takes up a lot of space. A dual crate is 2 crates long, and as you see, it kind of hides where you can't place them. So it just works. You just start loading up your trailer with whatever you want. You can also load up furniture, which is pretty neat. So you could put in your table and your office chair for your black market arms dealing out of a cargo container if you'd like. And if I get an SI rifle, these arms crates actually open up and you could store these rifles inside of them, which is pretty neat. And you can close it up. And these crates also stack on top of each other. So you can stack another triple crate on top, and then throw a double crate and a single crate on there, and then some single crates, throw in a barrel for good measure. Why not? And so you can really stack up crates and be really dynamic with it. Really, tangle them up. So it's, really... I'm going to keep saying really until I'm blue in the face. But yeah, it's a pretty neat way to stack things up and have a more, just a dynamic system to make things look more realistic. So here we have, it's pretty stacked in there, and I don't know, it's a pretty cool little system that is just one of those little touches that, you might look at it on the face and be like, oh, well, who cares? It's stacking a bunch of crates. But this is a lot more interesting than the old way. And what's cool is the crates are different heights. They all stack right up on top of each other. So you see back there, they're not quite lined up, but they're still stacked up nicely. And the height limit is determined by the height of the crate. So here you can see I can only stack 3, but if I get a shorter crate, I can stack them way higher until they actually, hit the roof. So you can really, really stack up a bunch of crates in really interesting ways. So pretty cool. And yeah, you can even put your furniture in there so you can deal people all sorts of illicit items. And then of course you could close it up, and you can even pick up the entire cargo container, then move it, and then set it down, and it has all your stuff still in it. So pretty cool, if I do say so myself. I'm pretty proud of that whole system. And this, the reason I call it a dynamic crate system, it's not just the cargo containers that have this functionality. So if I grab some of these crates, here I've got the Steed pickup truck, and as you can see, it has its own dynamic loading. So you can put stuff in there as well. So it's not just the cargo container that can have this dynamic load. It's any UNU vehicle that has a large loading area. So your pickup trucks, even the Labrador has options available. So it's pretty neat to be able to have these custom little loadouts. And continuing on the theme of cargo containing and transportation, we also have this quality UNU pallet. Doesn't have an UNU logo on it, but you know it's good just because it's quality. So this also has the loading system on it, so you can put the 2 long crates, then stack some small crates on top of it, whatever you want to do to make it really fancy. But you can also use a forklift now to actually pick it up and move it around. So go ahead and grab it with the forklift here. And then whoosh, pick up the pallet. I can even lift it up. Oh, wrong button. I'm just button mashing over here. You can drive it around. Drift it a little bit, and then you can set it down. And I think I'll set it down right over here. Oh, little lag spike. Boom, and boom. Takes a sec for it to find its little location, but there you go. So now you can actually move pallets around with a forklift. And down the line, my next big update is going to be all about logistics. You'll actually be able to load these in trucks, cargo containers, and other things. But for now, you can just kind of transport them around. And you can also load them in the back of the Solenodon, but that's more of like a little alpha thing. Now, customization with UNU version 6 is about more than just decor and loading up cargo containers. You can also customize your trucks. So there are some universal truck bed systems in UNU and MTS. MTS kind of has there's a little bit of a convention with truck beds. It's pretty simple. UNU is compatible with that and adds its own more advanced system. So you see here we have the Contractor XL with no bed, and then of course the old Camel with no bed. The Camel did get a slight remodel to shorten up the cab a bit to make it a little more normal looking. So we'll go ahead and grab the beds here. So this is a conventional bed. So this is out of the Trin pack. So, you know, Trin pack, pretty solid pack, and is really good at demonstrating this convention stuff. So here you can go ahead and put on the bed, and it works just as you'd expect. Nothing too surprising there. However, the UNU system is a little more advanced and has a lot more functionality to it. So here we have the fire truck bed, and as you can see, this is a lot longer, and it actually moves the truck cab to accommodate the longer bed. Same thing if you put it on the Camel here. It actually will make it longer. And on the Camel, you can see that the side tanks disappear, so they don't clip. And so this is some of the features of the new universal UNU bed system that really adds a lot more functionality. But it's more than just changing the length and making the fuel tanks hide, because you can also add a second axle. So if I get a Dayton axle here, I can actually add a second axle to accommodate heavier or more complicated beds. So here I've got the Camel tanker bed, which is actually universal now. And as you see, I cannot install it, but I can install the fire truck bed. But I can also install this rear axle extension. So I can put that on there. Now it has 2 axles, and it still works just fine with the conventional bed. In fact, that actually looks pretty cool. Hashtag Spud Truck. Oh, wrong thing there. But you cannot install the fire truck bed, because if you remember, the fire truck bed only has 1 fender, so it's a single bed. The tanker bed is a dual axle bed, and so now you can install that. So you can see I can't install it back here, but I can install it up here. If I want to install the Camel bed on this guy, just to throw another axle on, now I can. And so you can see with the tooltip here, it'll say heavy truck bed, single axle, heavy truck bed, dual axle. So I need to remove Camel from there, because these are universal with heavy UNU trucks. But that's not all with these trucks. So let me go ahead and get the truck beds off. No, that's not all. Let's say you don't like these Dayton axles. You think they're ugly. Well, go ahead and just take them off. You can actually just remove the axles completely. And that extra axle that I added is actually just the same exact part as the first axle that we took off. So it's not like it's a special secondary axle part. It's just that same axle piece. So we go ahead and take all these off. A lot of tires. And we can go and add our Bud axles. These are the more modern style wheels. I'm going to take it off the front too. And boom! Now we have Bud axles. For some reason, this dually... Oh, that's a medium dually suspension. Whoopsie daisy. That's for the contractor we're going to get to later. So let me get the proper heavy axle suspension, Bud, heavy axle suspension, Bud rear single, and Bud front. Perfect. And so there you go. Now you have Bud wheels. But that's not all. I feel like a quality UNU salesman over here. But wait, there's more. But that's really the theme of version 6. But wait, there's more. So you could take off this dually axle and actually just add a single axle if you want. So how sub trucks will have just a single pair of wheels in the back, you could do that as well. And then you can still throw on the tanker bed. So there's, again, a lot of functionality with this. You can even mix and match. So if I go ahead and grab a Dayton axle, you can mix and match Dayton and Bud. They're completely interchangeable. So pretty cool. And all UNU vehicles, with the exception of the Solenodon because it's special, you can actually swap these around. So if I grab the UNU brand school bus of fun here, and I get the Bud heavy axle, that's the medium. There we go. I can actually swap out this Dayton axle for the Bud axle. So you can really customize the vehicles to be however you see fit. So that is just these heavy trucks. You know, hey, throwing on axles is all fun and games, but what if you want to do it on your daily driver? Well, you could do that too. This is the core of version 6. This is what really blows everything else out of the water. You don't like the front of your truck? Well, you can just take it off. You take off that bumper. You take off the grill. Do whatever you want. It's your truck. It's a free country. And so go ahead and put that fender back on here. And you can also take off the truck bed. So now you can really start to customize your truck. So here we've got a custom front bumper. Look at that. We'll throw that on there. Boom. Now it's looking a little more hardcore. We can, you know what? I don't think it has enough towing capacity. So let's go and throw a tow truck bed on there. Boom. Now it's a tow truck. But you know what? I want to bring my friends along. So we'll go ahead and take off this tow bed and make it a crew cab. Boom. Now it's a crew cab tow truck. But you know what? I actually want to tow I don't want to tow a vehicle on its wheels. The car I'm buying has 4 flats. Boom. A flatbed tow truck. Look at that. Look at that monster. So go ahead and strip it down a little bit. Bring it back down to normal. So there we go. So now we're back to the normal truck. But you know what? I want to keep it with the tow truck. So we'll go with the tow truck. Yeah, easy to swap things around. But those wheels don't really look like they're set up for towing. So let's go ahead and fix that too. So we'll go ahead and put it on the handy dandy lift, which is a fantastic new item that's been teased with UNU for a while. Super easy to use. To use the lift, all you got to do is mount the vehicle with the X, and then you just push the buttons. Lifts your vehicle right up. And then when you want to take your vehicle off, you bring it down all the way. You notice that button pops out, click it, and your vehicle is dismounted. If you just want to drop it all the way down, that's what this 0 here is for. That brings it all the way back down so you can easily dismount it. So pretty cool. Pretty super handy when you're doing this stuff. And then these are the new UNU standard wheels. So if I set it back to the day, this is kind of a good way to look at and admire the new wheel models. So now they're actually round, have a little more depth, a little more interesting. There are a lot more hubcaps now. So we got the dish hubcap that we just took off. Then there's also the moon hubcap, a little more old school. And then the turbine hubcap, remember these from the Baron, full wheel hubcaps, just a whole bunch of different hubcaps that you can use. What's kind of cool is these dish hubcaps are actually universal between the standard wheel, which is on most UNU vehicles, and the compact wheel, which is on the UNU Rabbit. So they all use the same hubcaps. The full wheel hubcaps, though, are rim specific. So let's go ahead and take off these wheels, and guess what? You can also take off the axle just like you could on the heavy trucks. This was teased a little while ago, but now it's actually fully fleshed out and ready to rock. So we can go ahead and grab that medium suspension that I accidentally got before, throw it on there, and now we actually look like we're ready to tow something. So now we got the dually suspension in the back there. Now, as I'm sure you noticed when I was going on about all the different customizations, customizations don't just have to be truck beds, and they're not limited in size. So if I get a crew cab and then a flatbed towing thingy, a crew cab isn't a truck bed at all, but it still goes in the truck bed slot and turns your truck into a crew cab, and then you can throw on the tow bed, and now that truck is a lot longer than it started as. And so there's all this new functionality that goes into these custom parts. It's not like the old beds, like the one that I showed you with Trin. Those are just truck beds. You slap them on, they're boring, they're static. UNU version 6 is exciting and dynamic, and that's the UNU quality. What's also pretty cool is some of these beds are actually universal. So over here, there's the heavy truck beds. Those are universal, interchangeable. All the trucks will have the same ability to extend the bed, have different axles, things like that. But the light truck beds have some functionality as well. Now, some of them, and right now, most of them, are vehicle specific because they use the vehicle skin to kind of color match. So the tow bed that I showed you that was yellow, that is contractor specific. However, this flatbed is not vehicle specific. So here we have the UNU Steed, older truck, I like it. We can take off the bed, and you know what? This looks really familiar. I get a medium suspension. Just like the contractor, I could take off the rear axle, throw on a heavier rear axle. It's got some white wall tires because of the spawning in. And look at that. I could take the exact same truck bed as the contractor because it's the same system, which is pretty cool. It's that universal system within UNU. Other packs, of course, can adopt it, but it is a little more complicated than the typical slap-on a part. This is the power of UNU engineering. And of course, just because I'm sure you want to see it, this truck bed does animate, and it can actually tow a car. So if I throw this on there, chink, I can actually hook up a car, and we're repossessing. So again, a lot of cool functionality with customizing your vehicles. Another example. Oh, hey, I didn't have to look up that Steed. It's right there. Another example of this advanced customization of your vehicles is the handy dandy UNU Labrador. Look at this. Isn't this just a great little car? You have a little bed there that you can bring down the tailgate. That's just adorable. Well, you can also rip that tailgate off, as I'm sure you may have expected, and throw on the trencher. Boom. That's right. The trencher is no longer a specific Jeep vehicle. It's now a part you can add on to the car you already have. And it even works, as you'd expect. And so again, that really is the core of version 6, is this hyper customization that you can do. You can rip off the fenders of the Jeep too, so you can customize what fenders you want. If that's how you so desire to do. You can even rip off the doors, the hoods. I mean, you can really just customize the heck out of your car. You're not gonna catch me with that demonetization, unless I already said other swear words, and in which case that doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, you can really go crazy with customizing your vehicles. There's a guy on the UNU server, Oldborn the Canadian. He is making a front clip replacement that changes how the front of the contractor looks to make it look like a more modern truck, which is pretty cool. So even if you're not into like making your whole own vehicle, now you can start making some custom parts for UNU vehicles if you want. One good example, well, actually, I'll save that for later. That was kind of the wrap up. Alright, catch my breath here for a minute before we jump into the next thing, which is the ability to customize parts. That's right. You're not just customizing vehicles, you can even customize the parts that go on those vehicles. How cool is that? So let's go ahead and grab do I already have them in here? I don't have the engine. So we'll go and grab an UNU V8. Bam. There we go. Couple V8s. Nothing too special, but let's say, you know what? Let's go ahead and test out how powerful this engine is. Now, how are we going to do that? Are we going to put it in a car and do a 0 to 60? No. We have science and technology. We have the UNU dynometer. That's right, a dyno in MTS. Pretty cool stuff. You can load it up with whatever gauges you want. There's this little screen here that tells you the power graph. You can flip it around and it tells you the engine stats. You see the max RPM, the fuel consumption, and the heating and cooling coefficients of the engine. Now let's go ahead and start it up and do a run. So you can flip up the control panel here. The top two buttons allow you to adjust the scale of this output graph. It's usually best to put it at 0.5. It defaults to 1, but that's a little bit of user experimentation. This red light will blink if the dyno is out of fuel. It takes fuel, that's why I got the fuel pump here. And the green button starts it. So now we got our engine started. Let's go ahead and do a pull. To do a pull, basically revving up the engine and measuring its power output, click that lever. You see it clears the graph, and now the graph actually animates to show you your engine power. And there we go. Pretty low power with the scale we're using on the graph, but you'll soon see why. Let's go and shut it off. Perfect. Now, how do you customize your engine? Well, it's the same way we customized all the truck parts. So wrenches are how you remove entire parts. If you've used MTS or watched my tutorials, you should be pretty familiar with how to use a wrench. This screwdriver is a brand new part added by quality UNU technicians that allows you to modify your quality UNU engines. So, you start off by pulling off an air cleaner, take off a distributor, carburetor, and the intake manifold. Now you could tear the engine down further. In fact, you can tear it all the way down to the block. You can just kind of spam it and, we'll just remove the whole thing. I don't know what's going on there. Oh, there's this weird bug where sometimes you have to like place and then replace the engine when it's on the stand. I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, you can actually just tear down the engine, take off the valve covers, the fan, the exhaust manifolds, the generator, the timing cover, the internals, and just strip the entire engine down to just the block. And yeah, and you can even use the engine stand to rotate the engine, so you can... What the heck? Okay. Again, I think this is a bug. Sometimes you have to like take it down and replace it. Well, we won't get to that, I guess. So you can spin the... Yeah, you spin the engine around, usually. This new version of MTS has a few bugs, but... Yeah, anyway, we'll go and put that aside and grab our supercharger. You can gloss over any kind of technical difficulties with a supercharger. Look at that. You got 2 carburetors, the supercharger, and a giant air cleaner. Let's see how much power this thing has. So we'll go ahead and start it up. Fantastic, and let's do a pull. Now that's what our graph started as. Look at that. You win. It got all the way to the top. So yeah, this is a very visual way to compare how much power you're making with your different modifications. And if you want to get into the specifics, you can flip it back over, and now you can see the fuel consumption is now 2.0. That's a lot more power. But the heating coefficient is also 1.1, which means it's going to heat up faster. Now, right now, that's pretty much about it in terms of engine customization. You can put on different intake manifolds. So, for example, if we take off the supercharger, I can grab the tri-power intake manifold, and then I can also grab the fuel injection manifold. So tri-power is exactly what it sounds like. You've got 3 carburetors, gives you a little more power, brings the fuel consumption up to 1.0, gives you more power without too much overheating. So this is it's a little expensive because you've got 3 carburetors, but it does give you more power. Oh, I accidentally took off the valve covers there. There's also a fuel injection manifold. Now this one currently, I'm going to tweak it a little bit, but right now it doesn't give you too much more power, but it does make the engine run cooler. So different things can have different effects. And you can run the engine with no valve covers. You can even see the little valves dancing, which is pretty neat. And of course, give it a rev to measure that power. So there's a lot of different options. Right now, the engines you can modify are the 2 V8s. So you have the flathead V8 and the standard V8, which is this guy, as well as the 6 cylinders can be modified as well. So if I grab I think it's the Thriftmaster. Look at that, almost like I know my own thing. And then the Cyan Flame package. So the Cyan Flame package is the performance package for the Thriftmaster. So we can go ahead and, just like before, we could take off the intake manifold and the valve cover. We could add on the valve cover and the triple carburetor setup. So this is a little more sporty. You can see here that it modifies the stats as well. So pretty cool stuff. Yeah, you can really customize your engines. There's only going to be more functionality that's added in the future. Right now, the other engines are not customizable. However, they will be down the line. And people can make aftermarket accessories. So I know that Laura has made, from DKZ, has made custom valve covers, in air cleaners, things like that. And you can even do things like exhaust headers, and different parts can modify different stats of the engine. So you can even modify the internals like the pistons, crankshaft, camshaft, and modify the peak RPM and things like that. So there's a lot of functionality that can be done with these parts, and it's a really advanced little system. But let's say this gets over your head. You don't want to customize all these engines and deal with that. You don't have to. That's the best part about this system, is it's completely opt out. It's backwards compatible. If you never touch a screwdriver, you don't have to worry about customizing these engines or accidentally taking a random part off. Because if you use a wrench, it still takes the entire engine off. And in fact, if we get, hopefully I grab a Trin that can actually accept one of these engines. Alright, well, bad example, but these engines can go into non-UNU vehicles just fine. And their modifications transfer with them, so you can customize the vehicle, drop it in a Trin, and it works fantastically. Likewise, Trin engines work fine in UNU vehicles. So this is really just a sub-assembly level. Now, that is probably the most complicated aspect of version 6, is the ability to customize your engines. However, you can also customize your wheels. And that is where this other new workbench comes in. That's the tire machine. So you can take your wheel and throw it on the tire machine, and here we can see we've got the rim, we got the tire, nothing too crazy here, but you can actually pull the tire off and put on a custom tire. So maybe you want a racing tire. That looks pretty slick. You can put this on your, I don't have, here we go. You put it on your Jeep. Bam! Racing tire. Pretty slick. There we go. And then you can also, so there's the standard tire, which is that guy. Then you can put on a black wall tire if you want to go dark, I don't know. And then the white wall tire as well. But it's not just the standard wheel that goes with this. So if you get a wire wheel, you can swap everything out as well. So the wire wheel by default comes with this thick white wall, but you can put on a racing tire if you want. So the tires are all cross compatible and you can get really fancy with it. A lot of customization that you can do there. All the standard wheels share tires. Now that is a little funky with the Bud wheels, as we saw over there with the Steed when I put them up. For the Bud wheels, the decorative part of the tire kind of face each other on the back, so maybe that's not the most stylish thing, but it's compatible. And the different truck wheels also use the same tires, so the Bud wheels and the Dayton wheel rims both use the same tires. And right now, there's only the 3 tire sizes: the truck wheels, the standard wheels, and the compact. So small wheels, like on the forklift, can't be swapped around. So I'll grab the compact wheel and some compact tires as well. And you can see here that you can swap those around. Right now, there's only 2 compact tires. You got the white wall and the black wall. But down the line, I can imagine people making all sorts of custom stuff. In fact, what's it called? There's Laura made a custom rim. It's in the UNU custom pack, but I just had to find it. If I can't find it quick, then I will give up. Here we go. So yeah, Laura made this custom rim, and it uses all the same tires, which is pretty cool. So the tires are all cross-compatible. So as you can see, the racing tires here. UNU standard racing wheels, so I don't know what this is. Oh, it's just a different color. Cool. So yeah, there's a lot of different functionality with these different tires. The tires can actually have stats, so you can make slicks or snow tires, things like that. You can even put tire chains on standard sized tires. So if I get the tire chains here, you can actually put them on. You have tire chains on your performance tires, which is pretty neat. But yeah, that's pretty much UNU version 6 in a nutshell. Just all this customization you can do. But I'm sure you're thinking, well, with all these different parts, how am I going to find out which ones I can craft, and how am I going to manage that? I mean, if you use the the standard MTS custom bench, which, oh man, they changed how everything looks, so here it is. So this is like your just typical catch-all workbench for MTS, and so you can go to UNU, and then the UNU parts pack, wherever it is, there we go, and you just have all these different things, and it's just all the tires and all the parts, and it's a lot to have to sort through. That's why there are all these new machines. So time set 0 again. These machines make it easier to find what you want to craft. And these are all optional. You can find everything on that red workbench there, but I like to think that these kind of spruce up a workshop, make it a little more workshoppy. It goes well with the lift and your tire machine and dyno, really to deck out your space. So this is a casting basin, and this creates cast parts. So engine blocks, cylinder heads, exhaust manifolds, and these are all crafting components. So these are not used, so like for example, this water pump isn't a water pump for a specific engine. It's a generic water pump that is used to craft engines. And these are also decors as well. So for example, if I get the hubs that we just saw, you can set them down, ding, and they're just cute little parts that you can use to decorate your workshop or use them to craft vehicles and such. So this is a forging machine, which currently doesn't make anything. It needs to be fully implemented a little bit down the line, but for now, it just looks cool. A sheet metal press, so this makes things like your air cleaners and your doors and whatnot. Again, these are all crafting components. So for example, this fender is not a specific fender, it is just like a crafting component. So these are the materials. So this is not an air cleaner for a specific engine. Then these are the benches that actually create parts specific to vehicles. So these all just make crafting components. I think this makes crafting components as well. So this is the assembly table, which makes quote unquote assembled parts. So leaf springs, coil springs, spark plugs, girders, generators, batteries, things like that, which again are used in crafting vehicles or as decorations. So that's how you can see they have this purple here. The rest of these benches actually create the parts that you care about to customize your vehicles. So this is a tire molding machine, and it creates the different tires. So here we can see the racing wheel, which is the only thing in the custom parts pack, and the UNU parts pack. So there's the compact tire, which the MTS screwed up its text. I think they're working on it. But yeah, you can choose the different wheels there, and then the off-road tire and the standard tire. And so this just shows you tires. This is your one-stop shop for tire shopping, which is pretty handy. And there's the white wall tire. There's a little bug with how these things are shown, but don't worry about that. That's an MTS thing. Yeah, so this will show you all your different tires. And there's the truck tire as well, because it's a tire machine. And then this is going to show you body parts. If you want to get into customizing your vehicles, this is what you're going to want. So this is the Mastodon observation deck, custom parts pack. This is a tow bumper for the contractor, things like that. These are a bunch of default parts. So these are all the default parts that spawn on vehicles. Yeah, and then the custom bumpers and stuff like that for the civil pack. So here we can see these are hoods that have a cutout in them that allow the supercharger to poke through. So this is where customization can be handy, so your car doesn't look like junk. You can rip the hood off your 750, slap this on there, and then throw on your supercharger, and it actually kind of looks like a hot rod. So yeah, a lot of different functionality. So here we have the custom front suspension for the 650 and 750, the crew cab that we looked at earlier, different truck beds, stuff like that. All sorts of different things that you can create for body parts. So this is the spot welder, so there's a description. So you see it's called spot welder, creates various UNU compatible body parts. And that's an important aspect with these crafting benches, is if a third-party pack, so like DKZ or Old Born's pack, they create something that's meant to work on an UNU vehicle, then these parts will show that as well. So it's a really easy way to find the customization parts you want. Then you have the transmission bench. This just crafts all the different transmissions, which is something I actually completely glossed over because I made those so long ago. Transmissions are interesting, and that's going to have to be a little mini tutorial on its own, because you have to enable them. They're not enabled by default because of the simple throttle that MTS has. So if you want to use transmissions, first you have to turn simple throttle off, and then use a configurator. That's the manual. And then over here, you can use the configurator to enable transmissions. And that means that the transmission is now its own separate part. So you take out the engine and take out the transmission as well. So this is a 3-speed automatic transmission. And so now you can install, say, a manual transmission. So 3-speed manual transmission, install that, and now the truck is a manual instead of an automatic. Typically in MTS, the engines have the transmission built into them, but if you enable this transmission functionality, transmissions are their own separate part. That's how crazy UNU version 6 is. This transmission feature is a huge feature. It adds a big game changer for immersive vehicles. Adds a whole other ability to customize your vehicles. You can put in different transmissions and mix and match transmissions and engines. All this cool stuff. There's even a semi-automatic transmission where you actually have to let off in order for it to shift. And the transmissions have like dynamic shift points. So with the automatics, if you're like cruising along, you're not going full throttle, it shifts earlier for fuel economy. But if you're full throttle, it shifts later for power. Um, so yeah, there's this whole like transmission system that I made, and I completely forgot about it because it was like several months ago, and I made all this other stuff. So that is how quality and feature packed this UNU version 6 is. Is there's this awesome transmission feature that I almost forgot to mention because of all the other stuff I added. So yeah, that's quality UNU products for you right there. But yeah, so this bench will show you all the different transmissions. People can make their own custom transmissions for UNU vehicles. You can make a 6-speed manual or like a CVT or whatever. And if they do and it's UNU compatible, it'll show up in this workbench, which is pretty cool. And lastly, this is your engine parts workbench. You can tell because it's got a generator, screwdriver, and a carburetor on it. And this is where we're going to craft all those awesome engine components. So here we've got the supercharger, we've got the cool air intake, and then carburetors, oil pans, spark plugs, valve covers, all sorts of stuff. So there's all these custom parts you can add. You got the flathead exhaust, and these are all the parts that go on your engines. So here we can see this is the standard intake manifold, the triple carburetor intake manifold, and then the fuel injection manifold. So yeah, this is where all those custom parts are going to show up for your engines, all in one spot. And again, if other people make vehicle parts, like I know DKZ is working on adding their own custom parts for UNU engines, that will all show up right here in this bench. So again, this is really your one-stop shop to really get everything that you need. That way you don't have to spend 5 days shuffling through that little workbench there. But yeah, I think that is pretty much everything. UNU version 6 is really centered around making it easier for people to add content to immersive vehicles. Because making a vehicle, especially with all the features immersive vehicles has now, it can be overwhelming. It's a lot. And if you want to make anything like UNU or Trin, with UNU version 6, I think it's puts it way ahead of the competition. I don't think anybody is really even close to competing with all this, but that's just me instigating Derek mode over here. Yeah, UNU version 6 adds all kinds of features, but what's super cool about it is if you want to make something for, like, let's say you want to make a custom, like a spoiler for a Rabbit, right? You can get your trunk here. So the default trunk. Oh, I actually tried to put a trunk on the back of a Rabbit. It's a hood because the engine's in the back. Anyway, if you wanted to add your own custom spoiler to the Rabbit, now you can very easily add a custom spoiler to the Rabbit by making it a custom hood. Or like if you want to make a custom like air vent or a grill or a fender, you can just make those simple parts, add them in, and now you have your own stuff in immersive vehicles. Now what's also cool is there are more features that are kind of built under the hood of UNU version 6 that makes it way easier to make content for immersive vehicles. Now, I'm only going to show one example here. Baron, and then a Gen 5. There we go. Oh, okay, G4, whatever. So if I get this lift here, and I put down a Baron. Now, you look at this stuff, and it might get a little overwhelming, you know? There's animated suspension, and all these awesome features that UNU has, right? Like animated suspension was added, I think, back in V4 or early on in V5. You can even take off the suspension and add your own custom suspension. But you can actually also take off the entire frame. Now, what does this mean? Why would you want to take off the frame of your car? Well, that's because UNU vehicles now, with some exceptions like the forklift and simpler vehicles like that, UNU vehicles are all built on chassis. They're built on frames. So, for example, the Baron uses a Generation 5 frame. The 650, a Generation 4 frame. The Contractor and the heavy trucks, they just use axles built into the frame. And here's what that means. This is what a frame looks like. And I'm not going to get too in-depth here because this is sort of a class and content pack creation, but I kind of want to throw this out there so that there's some seeds. You can make a vehicle that's just a body, it's just a shell, like that Baron. And then you could use a frame part, which is what this guy is right here, and add all these awesome UNU features to your vehicle. So if you just make a shell and you use a frame part on that shell, your vehicle will have fully animated suspension, be compatible with all the custom suspension components that people make, and will have all the fancy animations and everything you expect out of a proper UNU-based vehicle in your own vehicle. So the cool thing is you're not just stuck to whatever size I chose to make the frame. Just like those trucks could change in size, the frames could change in size too. So here you can see the frame can get longer and shorter to really adjust to whatever vehicle you want to make. Now this exhaust pipe isn't part of the frame, it's part of the vehicle model, so you don't have to worry about the exhaust pipe getting in the way. But yeah, you can make your very own vehicle and then use an UNU frame. Or you can make your own vehicle and use the solid axle suspension components. So for example, the suspension on the Labrador right here. Oh, I forgot to grab some tools. The suspension on the Labrador here is just generic UNU solid axle suspension. So I could throw this on here and give it dually wheels. Now some of you who have been floating around on UNU may already be familiar with this, but this is to kind of take that point home. Boom. Dually wheels. And if you look at the drive shafts, they're off to the side, and they go right to the transmission as you'd expect. But if you go over here, the drive shaft is way longer, and it just works. And here's a different drive shaft. You can actually define where the end of the drive shaft is, so that you can make these axles fit in your vehicles perfectly. You can even define the offset for the differential like these Jeeps have. So I'm not going to go too much more in depth on that, but it's basically a way to say that UNU version 6 isn't just about customizing UNU vehicles. It's not just about decorations and awesome inventory management of containers and selling guns out the back. It's about really being a platform. UNU version 6 has the tools for you to make your own vehicles a lot more easily with the full quality that UNU has. If you can make a shell of a vehicle, you could give it this animated suspension and make it look slick. You can use all these parts and have all these custom functionalities. It's super cool. And the best part is people can make custom axles, custom wheels, custom tires, custom fenders, custom deck lids, custom truck beds. I mean, the list goes on. You could turn these trucks into monster trucks if you wanted to, if you made a custom suspension for it. Old Born the Canadian is making a contractor rally truck. There really is a lot that you could do with UNU version 6. And messing around and ripping parts off your car is really just the beginning. There are people that are making custom content for UNU version 6 already to add even more customization options. And I am super excited to see where this goes in the long term. But yeah, that's the end of my spiel. I forgot when this started, but I think this video is going to end up being about an hour long. My voice is a little sore. But I'm just super stoked about this new quality UNU content that is hitting the scene because no other MTS pack and no other mod has this kind of functionality. If you're into cars and you're into taking stuff apart, this is going to be the mod for you. This basically turns, immersive vehicles into immersive freaking mechanic simulator. I mean, there's a lot to do here, and it's been a lot of work. It's been months in the making, but I think it's worth it. There's a lot to do here, and I hope you're as excited as I am. And with that, it's time for the outro. If you like what I make and you want to keep up to date on what's coming out, be sure to join the UNU Discord. It's the best quality UNU Discord that is out there. It has all that quality, you just can't get enough. Free to join, of course. I mean, it's Discord, and I am regularly active there. I post updates, and you can see what's coming out. If you want to support what I do, then you can head on over to my Patreon, and everyone who's a patron over there, even if it's only $1, you get Discord rank and early access to these dev builds. So patrons have been playing with some of this stuff for months now, so you can head over there if you want to help support what I do. Otherwise, just downloading the mod is plenty. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you're as excited about UNU version 6 as I am, because I mean, there's no limit to what you could do. I mean, think about all the custom ways you could put engines together, or these tires and axles and stuff. I mean, there really is not too much of a limit. So, thank you, and I'll see you next time.